Welcome. You're listening to the Leading Hope Podcast. My name is VJ Williams here with my friend and Pastor Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day to become a better leader. If you're new, we release a new episode every Wednesday. We'd love for you to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Also, download this, share this with a friend on Facebook. Can you download I guess you have to have the
technically,
before you actually do
you
that.
can go through Wi-Fi. If you're about to get on a flight, download this episode on your favorite podcast platform,
and then share it with a friend on Facebook, YouTube,
Once
and Instagram.
the flight has landed.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, make sure you use airplane mode. Nobody does that. Also, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. A few extra minutes will absolutely help get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us. Visit leadinghope.online and get updates. Find out more about the Leading Hope community. Kevin, today
VJ
is episode 212.
Yep.
Sounds like an area code.
Oh,
like a popular
I
one.
live in the 212.
That's the 212. Where is the 212? You want to look it up real quick?
Yeah, I'm going to real fast.
He's going to look it up real
Buy us
quick.
some time.
Just to see what happens. The 212. This is going to be episode 212.
Oh, it's Manhattan.
It's Manhattan. How about that?
Look at that.
Well, welcome to our friends from the Big Apple.
This is our Manhattan episode.
This is our Manhattan. This is episode 212. You've titled this Intense Words.
Intense words.
Intense words.
So this is, I don't like the title, just to be, I don't like the title, but this is kind of based on a talk that I gave to our team just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And so what
I like it when you call it a talk.
Talk.
A talk doesn't seem intense.
What do you,
I mean, that's what it was. I said I liked that you called it a talk.
I felt like you were being sarcastic.
No, not at all.
Okay, cool.
No, it's not a sermon. It's not a message.
Yeah, it's a little fireside chat with our team.
Fireside chat. How about that?
In the
What is that?
fireside room.
I like
that there
much
is no
better.
fireplace.
Please never say fireside chat.
Can you have a fireside chat in a room that is called the fireside room when there is no fireplace?
Fireplace?
Yeah.
I don't know, but let's never say that again. I like talk.
Okay, so here's the give me a second to get to what I want to get to.
Yeah.
So the idea is that different words communicate the same thing just to more intense or less intense degrees. So like if someone says, and I joke, I said this the other day in a message, a sermon, not a talk.
Yes.
That like Bethany would always one-up me in her adjectives.
Oh.
And so I'd just be like, I'm cold. And she'd always be like, I'm freezing. Or like wake up in the morning, I was like, oh man, I'm tired.
I'm exhausted.
Yep. And then the one that gets me the most, I'll just be like, oh, I'm really hungry.
I'm starving.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time. It's just like
which way are we going here?
You could just say me too.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to act like every single thing you feel is to a far greater degree than how I feel it.
That's intense.
It absolutely. So then this was this kind of came out of some things we experienced at our church and just some incredible things that we see God do.
Yeah.
And afterwards the response of people was like, I don't think they knew what language to use. I'm not saying they're belittling the thing.
Oh yeah, no.
But like the response was like, oh, that was a good service.
Yeah.
That was, and I'm just sitting there thinking like, that isn't doing justice to what I experienced.
Yeah.
And so I think it is important that we use the proper intensity for the event.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's 1,000 different things. I want to get to the leadership side of it, which is really what I want to focus in for a second. But like I joke that like my kids, like everything they feel is to an extreme.
Yeah.
And I just like have to say to them like, hey, listen, not every pain you experience is level 10, like your limb got cut off. Like some things are just ow. Some things will require tears. Some things will engage screaming as well.
Yeah.
Not everything need tears and screaming. Like it can just be an ow and you move on.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to rock every mic like a vandal to the extreme.
Exactly. I'm with you.
Vanilla Ice there. So, yeah. I liked it though. Yeah.
So then this became my my frustration within it though, is I felt like, especially outside of church world, people, or maybe it's not like the specific context, maybe it's just like with certain leaders, there's this need to always overstate what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, this event is going to be life-changing. It's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
And like every single thing, like we'll call people like, you're a world changer. They're like, no, they're not.
Yeah.
And when we say something like that, it may make someone feel good for like a brief second.
Yeah.
But they know they're not. Like if you call me a world changer, like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like I've changed people's lives. I've helped change areas in communities.
Yeah.
But like this whole, oh, you did this, is just like, why do we feel this need to overstate things to such a degree? And then when we truly encounter something significant, the tendency is we understate it.
Yeah.
And so kind of my plea, especially for like, I know we've got a bunch of leaders in business realm, but especially for faith leaders, is I feel like you use you dilute down your words. You don't use intense enough words for the things that are taking place.
That's good.
And so I want to communicate to people, like, if people want to properly see, like, not every meeting is the most important meeting. And if you call every meeting the most important meeting, then the meeting that is the most important meeting, people are going to take lightly. And so just the first piece is to say, like, be cautious, one, that you're not constantly overstating the significance of things, because then what is truly important can't stand out. The second piece on there is do not understate the significance of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so let me just equip some people with tools, and then I want to get into the faith-based realm for just a second. But to say, like, if you want your employee to be kind to the customer, just say that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I want you to be kind. If you want them to make them feel welcome, just say, I want them to walk in. I want them to feel like you're their friend. If you want them to be efficient, say it clearly. And I feel like people, like, they never actually state with proper intensity what they desire. And so expectations are unclarified, or things aren't seen proper importance, or things are wildly overstated in importance.
Yeah. I think before you get into the other part, I think it's so important that the negative connotation attached to this is there's people out there that say that we get upset around, which is tell it like it is.
Yes.
We don't want that. Call it like it is.
Yes.
Is a little different, because now you're not making it personal to somebody. You're talking exactly the right words for the thing that you witnessed or are part of.
Yep.
For that thing. It's like, call it. I'm going to rename the episode. Call it what it is. Never.
Oh, I like that. We could rename it.
But like, you know what I mean?
Let's call it what it is.
Call it what it is. That means when it is what it is. I'll let you go further into this. But
no, I think that's great.
That's really important, because it is intense when you call it what it is.
Yeah.
That's what makes it intense, because you're intentful in that thing. So,
and my guess is from what I know of our community is that
not a word.
is that the people who are listening to this, from my conversations, you probably underplay the significance of your actions.
Yeah.
In a desire to be humble.
Right.
In a desire to not come across like the person on social media who's like, get here. This is what we were actually mocking before we went live. Yeah. It's like, it's going to be the best. Every single thing. It's going to be amazing.
You don't want to miss it.
Yeah. And so it's just like, in our desire to not come across as like the hype guy.
Yeah.
Which is honorable.
Yeah. That's cool.
And important.
Yeah.
We dilute what's taking place. And so people can't see. And so, like,
hold on. I want to just explore this for just a second. The hilarity of that statement is we will, not just the church, just people in general.
Yep.
They will, don't miss it. It's going to be the greatest ever. Things are going to happen you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yep.
Then the thing happens, and afterwards we're like, it was good service.
Yep.
Wait.
Exactly.
It was going to be can't miss.
Yep.
And on the other end of it actually happening, like God actually did what he said he was going to do.
Yep.
You're like,
yeah.
Good job, God.
Yeah. And maybe it's the sense that I don't know exactly what, maybe people don't have language to describe what they're actually feeling.
Yeah.
Like maybe they just don't know the words.
Which is fair.
But it's just like, I don't know.
I get that. Well, if you don't, I don't. Yeah.
Buried within this conversation on intensity is what's really, and we're going to talk about it in a couple weeks, is a conversation on priority. And so like if everything is the same level of intensity, then priority is lost.
Right.
And I think one of the key reasons why people have to get comfortable using intense words, not for all occasions, for specific occasions, but like why they have to get comfortable using intense words is because it marks the moment that are truly life-changing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, not everything you do is life-changing, but some things are. And so like I came out of this and I didn't have words. And so like we're talking about the thing that we experienced.
Right.
And I'm just like, I feel like we need to up our intensity.
Right.
And you kept pressing me. And you're like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for someone who thinks they're pretty intense, like what is that? And then you use the language that is starting to resonate. I used it in our prayer this morning with some people online.
Yeah.
Is the wineskin. You want to talk about what you said there?
Yeah.
I mean, that was just an analogy that helped us understand. Because if you think about it, that's intense language.
Yeah. The language that Jesus uses, he says, you cannot put new wine into old wineskins because the wineskins will burst. You need new wineskins for new wine. And like the way I understand that, his teaching on there is just to say, like, when something new happens in your life and you are different, you cannot go back to all your old habits, behaviors, and everything that you've always done.
Yeah. Because
you are now different.
Yeah.
And so if you are different, then your life in behavior and action must look different.
Yeah. And you can't unknow that.
Exactly.
Like you cannot participate with it, but you can't reverse that. It didn't happen.
And so then that was and it doesn't sound like super intense, but it's significant.
It is.
It's just to go, I knew after that moment that I was different.
Yeah.
My faith was stronger.
Yes.
I saw the world differently.
Yep.
And so I just kind of want to give a heads up of like, I know I'm not going to live the same.
Right.
Because I know you're going to engage with a slightly different person because I'm different. Right. Now, I'm not I'm not the person who's like every single event that I've been at, it was life-changing.
Right.
Because I always want to be like, it was life-changing. I'm like, okay, so what is going to change in your life? Because the last 5 times you said it was life-changing, you did everything exactly the same. So tell me what, like,
sure.
It has to be life-changing.
Yeah, right. And no, I mean, that's what that is.
So let me give some language on faith. Okay. And this, if you're not a person of faith, this may not be as helpful, but just
everybody has faith in something.
There you go. But to understand, like, I think what has happened, especially in pockets of faith, is in our desire to make it accessible, we have lost significance.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to stay accessible, but we need to understand the proper intensity of what's taking place. So here's just kind of my list of like, whenever scripture talks about, like, scripture doesn't say we sing. We'll say like, hey, on a Sunday morning, join us for singing. We say we praise, we worship, we proclaim the goodness of God. People don't find Jesus or say yes to Jesus. Those are like 2 common things. Like, oh, I said yes to Jesus. You are rescued, you're saved, you're made alive. We take things as an offering or an invitation when it's actually a commandment. We'll say, I got better, where scripture says you were made new.
Yeah.
It's not a talk. If scripture's involved, it's a sermon. It's not simply a message. It's a word from the Lord. This is one that makes people come out of like service and they'll be like, "Oh, it was full." Like the scripture says revival.
Yeah.
Like they use it. Why do we use it as if it's a capacity word?
Right.
Instead of a spiritual renewal word. And then like my favorite one within this was say like, hey, I have difficulty, where scripture says you encountered the enemy.
Yeah.
And in each one of these things, I understand the desire to make it more accessible. What we are doing is we're losing significance of the actions that are taking place. And so for significant actions, we need intense words.
Yeah.
For significant moments, we need intense words.
Do you feel obviously there's the churchy versus not churchy that gets intertwined in that discussion?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you help people decipher the difference?
So I talk about it like this, is to say, one of the things our teams heard me say many times, and if you don't have faith background, this may be a little bit of a new concept, but like in the like 90s, early 2000s, one of the big things that was popular was the seeker-sensitive movement. And it was making church accessible to those who were seeking, who didn't already know. And the thing that just like has and maybe some of you will feel seen and heard in this moment, maybe for the first time. The stupid thing about the seeker-sensitive movement is church people assume that people who don't know God are dumb.
Yeah.
It's just so idiotic. And they're like, I remember asking one person one time, why do you use this translation of the Bible? They said, because it's written at a 4th grade reading level.
Yeah.
And we're here for seekers. It's like, what makes you think that people who don't know God only are able to read at a 4th grade level?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between accessibility of theological language. So like on a Sunday morning, I'm not going off pontificating about God's justification, ongoing sanctification, progressive work in our lives for the redemption of all things. Like, I'm not using that language because I want it to be accessible, because that's terminology that's only in a certain study.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between common language that is still accessible.
Yeah. And so how do we not, I mean, so that's important to this conversation, because a lot of people are going to be like, well, if seeker sensitive was all the way on one side, right? And maybe for the people that didn't like that movement, they would have said that's watered down.
Yes.
Is their language. They would.
So how do we enrich it?
Well, it's not even, that's important, but like, we also don't want to swing the pendulum so far back the other way
absolutely.
that we're just pushing this language on people that don't understand and can't, we're making it difficult for those who are coming to Christ.
Yep.
So where do we lie in between those two, from seeker, complete sensitive, to, hey, you don't understand these words because you didn't go 7 years in.
Yeah. How do we properly find the balance? Yeah,
because that's really the importance. Because I think it's a priority. Back to what you say, in order to have these intense opportunities where we actually understand what like, it's not every day that I'm changing the world, but there might be a day where I can help change the world.
Yep.
Like, I know every little step preparation always leads to something, but there's a priority there that I actually have to believe that God placed me uniquely in this time of this world to do this thing. I have to believe that.
Yes.
And there's a priority placed on that, but there's got to be language that I use, and it can't be all the way over here and it can't be over here. How do we narrow that down into the place of which we can move?
Well, I mean, I think the piece on there is to go, like, if I could take it back to like all our examples at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is to go, important. I mean, like, you're not freezing every time you're cold.
Yeah.
You're not starving every time you're hungry.
Yeah.
And if you're using those words every single time, you're missing, like, you're overstating your case. And what's happening is people are actually tuning you out.
Yeah. That's good.
And so I just think it's to be mindful of, to go, like, if I would honestly give like the most practical example of what that was, is I would say you should start writing.
It's good.
Like, you should start journaling, something like that. Not for the activity of like Dear Diary, but like for the purpose of like the writing process helps us clarify the things that are taking place in our lives. And if you go back through, you write over a week the different things that have happened, and you go back and you read all those, and all of the type of the intensity of words you're using are exactly the same, you're realizing that you need to either make it more accessible because they're all too intense, or you need to enrich your language through other sources. I
couldn't agree more. And for those of you that might not be a diary writer, there's other tools for that. I'll just throw for me, I'm not I can't write. I was in the, and this is probably an excuse more than it is but like, I just can't really write fast enough. I can type 10 times as fast for me, because I was in the computer like industry like for years. But for me, like even if I can't conjure up the thoughts, listening to what other people said and writing down, like when you speak or another speak, writing down that and reading it over, those words get intense.
Yes.
As I pile that on, and it changes the way I think about language. So I couldn't agree more. As a practical, I didn't know where we were going with this, but that's a very practical way that you can help change the way you use language.
Agreed.
According to what you're actually experiencing, not what someone else is saying.
Yep.
That's good.
Good.
I like it.
So I think my hope that I want to leave people with today is just to go, like, on the one side, which I don't think is as much our risk for our community, is just to go, don't be the person who is like over intensifying every single event.
Yeah.
Not every meeting is the end of the world.
Yeah.
Not every event is life-changing. Some of them are just good, and that's okay.
And that is great.
Yeah, to say that's taking place is better than nothing.
Right.
It's better than, and if it's nothing, you can say, it was fine. but also within that, don't find yourself caught in this diluted, lukewarm language at all times. For significant things, use significant words because it helps people adequately express what they've experienced, but it also creates and clarifies the priority of what's taking place. If you're a boss and you're a leader and you've got to come up with new evocative language every single time you speak to your team to get their attention, you are fighting a losing battle. Like they are slowly tuning you out every single week.
That's so good. That's great. I love that. I just wrote this down, and I hope everyone can take this. Well, this is what I'm going to put in the title, or not in the title, in the subject line, for significant things. For significant things, use significant language.
That's good.
It's powerful. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're new to the podcast, haven't yet subscribed, to mean the world to us if you did that now. Also post about it, rate and review, or both. You won't believe how that helps get this in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us. And we love hearing your stories of how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online, or you can DM us on Instagram or Facebook. We love hearing those, and we love to hear how you're moving forward and progressing. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count. Woo!